If only I had known that the words spoken to a 13-year-old girl would echo in a village council chamber 20 years later, I would have documented everything from that very first day. But let me take you back to where it all began, to the moment when Chief Okonkwo's empire started crumbling, not by accident, but by the careful hands of the girl he once called not his daughter. Today, Adaeze stands before the Umu's village council in Enugu, holding a blue folder. She wears a fitted navy suit, her natural hair styled in elegant twist. Across the long wooden table sits Chief Okonkwo, still wearing his traditional chieftaincy beads, still carrying that confident smirk that has fooled this village for decades. The council chairman, Elder Obi, adjusts his glasses and clears his throat. Miss Okafor, you may present your findings on Chief Okonkwo's application for the State Community Development Grant. Adaeze opens the folder slowly. Papers rustle in the silent chamber. Okonkwo's smirk falters just slightly as her eyes meet his. Before I begin, Adaeze says, her voice steady and clear, I must disclose something important to this council. She pauses, letting the tension build. Chief Okonkwo is my stepfather. The chamber erupts in whispers. But to understand how we arrived at this moment, we must rewind the story. We must go back to 2005, to a small kitchen in Enugu, where 13-year-old Adaeze stood clutching her honor roll certificate with trembling, sweaty hands. She had waited all day for this moment. Her teacher, Mrs. Is, had announced her name 3 times during assembly: best student in mathematics, best student in English, overall best student in junior secondary school 3. The other students clapped. Some girls whispered jealously, but Adaeze didn't care. She only wanted one person's approval. That evening, she found Okonkwo standing by the kitchen counter, drinking coffee and scrolling through his phone. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, always dressed in expensive traditional attire. The community respected him. They called him a successful contractor, a generous man who married a struggling widow and took in her daughter. Sir, Adaeze whispered, holding out the certificate with a shy smile. I came first in my class. Okonkwo barely glanced at it. Then, without warning, he snatched the certificate from her hands, crumpled it like waste paper, and tossed it onto the counter. You are not my daughter, he said coldly, looking her straight in the eye. Don't expect anything from me. Adaeze's heart shattered like glass dropped on concrete. She looked desperately toward her mother, Nkem, who stood frozen by the sink, soap suds dripping from her hands. Their eyes met for one brief second. Adaeze silently begged her mother to say something, anything. But Nkem turned away, her shoulders hunched in defeat. Okonkwo slammed the kitchen door on his way out. The sound echoed through the house like thunder. Adaeze stood there alone, tears burning her eyes but refusing to fall. She looked at her crumpled certificate on the counter, at the kitchen door, then down at her trembling hands. Something inside her broke that day. But something else was born too, something quiet and dangerous. She whispered to the empty kitchen, her voice barely audible, one day, you remember those words. She picked up her certificate, smoothed it out carefully, and walked to her small bedroom. That night, she started a journal. On the first page, she wrote in careful handwriting, evidence for the day I'm strong enough. But let's go back further, to understand how this man entered their lives in the first place. 3 years before that kitchen incident, in 2002, Adaeze's world was completely different. Her father, Mr. Okafor, had just died from a brief illness that took him suddenly. Adaeze was only 10 years old, confused and heartbroken. Her mother, Nkem, was devastated, struggling to manage their small provisions shop and raise her daughter alone. The community whispered about them. That poor widow and her child. How will they survive? People brought food at first, offered prayers and sympathy. But as weeks turned to months, the sympathy faded. Nkem's shop barely made enough money to pay school fees and house rent. Then Okonkwo appeared, like sunshine breaking through dark clouds. He was already a successful contractor, building houses and community centers across Enugu. He first came to their shop to buy drinks for his workers. He noticed Nkem's sadness, asked gentle questions, and returned the next day. And the day after that. Within 3 months, he was bringing gifts, wrappers for Nkem, toys, and books for Adaeze. He paid Adaeze's school fees without being asked. The community praised him endlessly. See a good man. Taking care of a widow and her fatherless child. At the wedding ceremony 1 year later, everyone celebrated. Everyone except Adaeze, who stood quietly in a flower girl dress. During the wedding reception, while adults danced and ate rice and chicken, 10-year-old Adaeze wandered toward the back of the rented hall. She was thirsty and looking for water when she heard Okonkwo's voice coming from behind a curtain. He was talking to his friend, Uncle Chike, both men holding bottles of beer. The woman is fine, Okonkwo said, laughing. Beautiful and obedient. But that daughter will be a problem. Adaeze froze behind the curtain. Problem how? Uncle Chike asked. Too smart for her own good, Okonkwo replied. Always reading, always questioning. I see it in her eyes. Girls like that become troublesome women. Uncle Chike laughed. Then break her early, my brother. Show her who the man of the house is. They clinked bottles and laughed together. Adaeze pressed her small hand against the wall, her heart beating fast. She didn't fully understand what they meant, but she felt danger in those words. She returned to the reception hall and sat beside her mother, watching Okonkwo dance and smile with guests. That night marked the beginning of her careful watching. She started seeing things she had missed before. The wedding gifts he gave her were always cheaper than the ones he gave his own daughter, Chioma. After the wedding, the mask dropped completely. Okonkwo moved them into his large house in a good area of Enugu, but Adaeze quickly realized this house would never feel like home. Family photographs were taken constantly, but Adaeze was always excluded. Stand aside, Okonkwo would say. This is just for my immediate family. Chioma, Okonkwo's biological daughter who was 2 years younger than Adaeze, got birthday parties every year, big celebrations with cake, decorations, and gifts. But when Adaeze's birthday came, it passed in silence. If she dared to mention it, Okonkwo would grunt, birthday. We don't have money for double celebrations. School became Adaeze's escape and her weapon. She studied ferociously, determined to prove her worth. She brought home report cards with straight A's, certificates for spelling competitions, awards for mathematics. But Okonkwo never looked at them. Instead, when Chioma brought home average grades, he would throw a small party. My daughter is brilliant, he would announce, hugging Chioma while Adaeze watched from the doorway, invisible. Her mother, Nkem, would whisper apologies in secret when Okonkwo wasn't around. I'm sorry, my daughter. Please understand. Be patient. But she never defended Adaeze publicly. She had chosen peace over protection, comfort over courage. As the years passed, Adaeze learned to become a ghost in that house. She moved quietly through rooms, spoke only when necessary, and kept her achievements private. But she never stopped documenting. In her journal, hidden under her mattress, she recorded everything: the date Okonkwo refused to attend her school prize-giving ceremony, the time he told visitors Adaeze was just Nkem's daughter from before, the evening he gave Chioma a new phone while telling Adaeze that reading books should be entertainment enough. When Adaeze turned 16, a particularly painful incident occurred. She had worked extremely hard and won third position in the entire state for the junior WAC examination. Her school called Okonkwo to inform him of this achievement. That evening, he came home and gathered everyone in the living room. Adaeze's heart jumped with hope. Maybe this time, maybe this achievement was big enough. But Okonkwo's face was cold. I received a call from your school today, he said. Adaeze nodded eagerly. They were wasting my time, bragging about some exam results. He turned to Nkem. "Tell your daughter that I'm a busy man. She should stop seeking attention from me." Chioma giggled from the sofa. That giggle cut deeper than Okonkwo's words. Adaeze's mother said nothing, as always. That same night, something inside Adaeze shifted completely. She couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and made a decision. She would no longer seek love from people who had none to give. Instead, she would build her own path, brick by brick, grade by grade, certificate by certificate. One day, she would leave this house. And when she did, she would never look back. The opportunity came sooner than expected. During her final year of secondary school, one of her teachers, Mr. Anebo, pulled her aside after class. "Adaeze, have you heard of the University of Lagos Scholarship Program?" She shook her head. "It's a full scholarship for brilliant students from low-income families. You should apply." Adaeze felt hope spark in her chest. "But I need documents, sir." "Parent signatures." Mr. Anebo studied her face carefully. He had noticed things over the years: the sad eyes, the old uniforms while other students got new ones, the way Adaeze flinched when parents were mentioned. "Bring what you can," he said gently. "I'll help with the rest." For 3 months, Adaeze worked on that application in secret. She gathered documents, wrote essays during break time, and submitted everything without telling anyone at home. She didn't want to jinx it. She didn't want Okonkwo to destroy this dream too. 6 months later, on a Saturday morning, the acceptance letter arrived. The postman handed it to Adaeze directly as she swept the compound. Her hands trembled as she tore open the brown envelope. "Dear Miss Adaeze Okonkwo, congratulations. You have been awarded a full scholarship to study political science at the University of Lagos." She read it 3 times to make sure it was real. Full scholarship. Tuition, accommodation, feeding allowance, everything covered. Tears poured down her face as she clutched the letter to her chest. This was her golden ticket. Her escape. Her new beginning. Foolishly, she still hoped for approval. She waited until evening when everyone was home. Okonkwo sat in his usual spot, reading newspapers. Nkem was cooking. Chioma was watching television. Adaeze walked into the living room with the letter, her heart pounding. "Sir," she said quietly. "I have news." Okonkwo didn't look up. "What is it?" "I got accepted to University of Lagos. Full scholarship." The room went silent. Chioma turned from the television. Nkem appeared in the kitchen doorway. For one brief moment, Adaeze thought she saw something flicker in Okonkwo's eyes. But then he laughed, a cruel, mocking laugh. "University of Lagos," he said. "That school only accepts the desperate." The words hung in the air like poison. Adaeze stood frozen, the letter trembling in her hands. She waited for someone to defend her. Her mother, perhaps. Or even Chioma, who sometimes showed brief moments of sisterly kindness. But Nkem turned back to her cooking. And Chioma giggled, that same cutting giggle that had become her signature response to Adaeze's pain. Something died in Adaeze that evening. The last piece of the little girl who wanted to belong in this family finally disappeared. She walked upstairs to her small room, the scholarship letter still in her hands. She didn't cry. She had no tears left for these people. Instead, she pulled out her old traveling bag from under the bed and began packing. One set of clothes. Her certificates. Her father's photograph that she kept hidden. Her journal. She packed light because she was traveling toward freedom, and freedom had no room for heavy baggage. That night, she barely slept. As dawn broke, she dressed quietly, picked up her bag, and walked downstairs. She didn't say goodbye. She simply walked toward the front door. "Adaeze." Chioma's voice came from the staircase. She stood in her pink pajamas, arms crossed, wearing that same smirk her father always wore. "Father says you'll come crawling back. You're nothing without us." Adaeze turned and looked at Chioma for a long moment. She wanted to say so many things. She wanted to tell this girl that kindness would have cost her nothing. That years from now, she would regret learning cruelty from her father. But instead, Adaeze simply said, "Goodbye, Chioma." She walked out the front door into the early morning light. As she climbed into the bus heading to Lagos, she made a vow to herself: "I return to this village one day. But not as the girl who left. I return as someone they'll never forget." Lagos welcomed her like a mother welcomes a lost child. The university campus was huge, loud, and full of life. Her roommate, Zainab, was a kind Muslim girl from Kano who immediately sensed that Adaeze carried heavy pain. But Zainab never pushed. She simply offered friendship and space. Adaeze worked 2 jobs while studying. She sold recharge cards during the day and tutored students in the evening. Money was always tight, but she managed. More importantly, she discovered something unexpected about herself. She had a gift for helping broken people navigate systems designed to exclude them. She started volunteering at a community center that helped displaced families. There, she met children who reminded her of herself, invisible, hurting, forgotten. And she helped them. During her 3rd year at university, one of her professors, Dr. Adewale, noticed her talent. After class one day, he called her aside. "Adaeze, have you considered working in non-profit development after graduation?" She blinked in surprise. "Sir, I've never thought about it." "You should," he said. "You have a rare gift. You understand how power works, how systems exclude people, and how to fight for the vulnerable. I want to introduce you to someone." 2 weeks later, Adaeze met Mr. Emeka Obi, director of the Community Development Initiative, one of Nigeria's largest NGOs focused on helping struggling families access government programs and grants. Mr. Emeka was a tall, gentle man in his 50s with kind eyes that seemed to see straight into people's souls. "Your professor speaks highly of you," Mr. Emeka said during their meeting at a small cafe near campus. "Tell me, why do you want to help people?" Adaeze thought carefully before answering. "Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, sir. To have people look through you instead of at you. And I know that systems meant to help people often hurt them instead. I want to change that." Mr. Emeka smiled. "When you graduate, come and see me. We need people like you. People who understand how power really works." Adaeze graduated with first-class honors in 2014. While her classmates celebrated with families, she celebrated alone with Zainab and a small cake. But she wasn't sad anymore. She had built her own family from friendships and mentors who actually saw her. True to his word, Mr. Emeka offered her an internship at CDI. She accepted immediately and threw herself into the work with fierce dedication. She learned everything: grant application processes, government funding structures, eligibility requirements, corruption patterns, and how to identify fraudulent applications. She was brilliant at it. Her eye for detail was sharp. She could spot inconsistencies in documents that others missed. Within 2 years, she was promoted from intern to full staff member. Within 4 years, she was leading entire evaluation teams. Mr. Emeka became the father figure Okonkwo never was. He mentored her patiently, celebrated her achievements genuinely, and protected her fiercely when office politics tried to pull her down. "You remind me of my own daughter," he told her once. "Smart, determined, and carrying old pain that makes you fight harder." During one training session, Mr. Emeka was teaching new staff about fraudulent applications. "The most dangerous applications," he explained, "come from people with just enough influence to seem legitimate. They steal from the truly desperate." Adaeze's pen paused on her notepad. She thought of Okonkwo's construction empire and wondered, By 2019, at age 27, Adaeze had become a rising star in Nigeria's non-profit sector. People respected her name. Other organizations tried to recruit her, but she stayed loyal to CDI and Mr. Emeka. She had found her purpose, and it was bigger than revenge. It was about justice. But sometimes, the past has a way of catching up, whether you're ready or not. One Tuesday afternoon, while reviewing grant application at her desk, Adaeze received a notification from a professional networking group. A discussion thread about problematic contractors in Enugu had been started. Curious, she clicked on it. Contractors' names were being listed: poor workmanship, unpaid workers, suspicious contract awards. Then she saw it: Okonkwo Construction Limited. Her heart skipped. Several people had commented about unpaid wages, substandard materials, and broken promises. One worker wrote, "Chief Okonkwo is a thief hiding behind a chieftaincy title." That same week, out of curiosity, Adaeze checked Chioma's Facebook page, something she rarely did. The post had changed drastically. Where there used to be vacation photos and bragging posts, now there were complaints. "Why is life suddenly so hard?" one post read. "Enemies of progress everywhere," said another. "Financial pressure is real," said a third. Something was happening to Okonkwo's empire. And Adaeze felt nothing, no satisfaction, no sympathy. Just cold curiosity. Then her phone buzzed with a text from a number she hadn't seen in 5 years. It was her mother. "Adaeze, your stepfather's business is struggling. Things are changing here. He might reach out to you soon." Adaeze stared at that message for a long time. Her mother's words felt empty, transactional, like she was delivering a warning, not seeking reconciliation. She didn't reply. Instead, she did what she did best: she investigated. Using her access to public records and professional databases, Adaeze started digging into Okonkwo Construction Limited. What she found both shocked and didn't shock her at all. Okonkwo's company had won multiple government contracts over the years through suspicious circumstances. Payments to village council members disguised as community contributions. Inflated project cost. Substandard materials used while full payment was collected. But something else caught her attention: a land transaction record from 2003, just 1 year after her father died. The document showed a sale of prime land in their village, signed by Chief Okonkwo. But when Adaeze looked closely at the signature, her blood ran cold. The handwriting didn't match her mother's. That evening, she went home to her small apartment and pulled out an old box she kept under her bed. Inside were her father's documents, papers she had taken from the attic years ago. Land deeds. Property certificates. All in her father's name, meant to be inherited by his daughter. Adaeze spread the document across her living room floor, comparing signatures and dates. Her hands trembled as the truth became clear. Okonkwo hadn't just rejected her. He had stolen from her. That land, her father's land, her inheritance, had been fraudulently transferred to Okonkwo's name and sold to developers. The profits had funded his construction empire. "He didn't just reject me because he was cruel," she whispered to herself in the empty apartment. "He rejected me because I was a threat. Because I might discover what he'd done." Tears finally came, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of clarity. Every cruel word, every dismissal, every humiliation suddenly made sense. Okonkwo had been protecting his secret by breaking her spirit, hoping she'd remain too weak to ever question anything. But he had underestimated her. And now, after all these years, the universe was bringing him to her doorstep. 3 days later, an email arrived in her work inbox. The sender, Okonkwo Construction Limited. The subject line, request for professional guidance. Adaeze's heart pounded as she opened it. The email was formal, cold, professional. No stepdaughter, no warmth, no apology for the past. Just, Dear Miss Okafor, I am reaching out regarding professional guidance for securing financial support programs. Given your expertise in this area, I would appreciate any assistance you could provide. Regards, Chief Okonkwo. Adaeze sat frozen, staring at that email for over an hour. The 13-year-old girl holding her crumpled honor roll certificate screamed inside her chest. She closed her laptop without responding. The next morning, Mr. Emeka stopped by her desk, holding a thick folder. Adaeze, we have a major project. The State Community Development Grant. It's significant funding for small businesses and homeowners in crisis. I need someone thorough to lead the evaluation team. He handed her the folder. You up for it? She took the folder calmly. Absolutely, sir. That night, alone in her apartment, she opened the folder with trembling hands. There were 20 applications to review. She flipped through the pages slowly, her heart beating faster with each one. And there it was. Third application in the pile. Okonkwo Construction Ltd. The universe had a sense of timing, she thought. After all these years, after all the pain, after all the silent nights of wondering if justice would ever come, here it was, landing directly on her desk. She could walk away. Pass the file to another evaluator. Let someone else handle it. But something stopped her. This was her territory now. She knew family services better than anyone on the team. And more importantly, she knew Okonkwo better than any application could show. The next morning, Adaeze requested a private meeting with Mr. Emeka. She sat across from him in his office, her hands folded professionally in her lap. Sir, I need to disclose something about one of the grant applications. Mr. Emeka looked up from his papers. Go ahead. Application number 3. Okonkwo Construction Limited. She paused. Chief Okonkwo is my stepfather. Mr. Emeka's eyes widened slightly. He leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. I see. That's a significant conflict of interest. Do you want me to reassign the case? Adaeze met his eyes steadily. No, sir. I can remain completely objective. I can evaluate this case based purely on facts and regulations, with no personal bias whatsoever. But I wanted you to know the connection, for transparency. Mr. Emeka was silent for a long moment. Adaeze, can you truly separate your personal feelings from professional evaluation? This is a serious responsibility. I understand, sir. And yes, I can. In fact, I believe my personal knowledge makes me more qualified, not less. I know the community. I know the context. And I promise you, I will evaluate based only on documented evidence and program requirements. Nothing else. After several seconds, Mr. Emeka nodded slowly. All right. Your lead evaluator. But I'll be reviewing your findings closely. This must be absolutely clean. It will be, sir. I guarantee it. For the next 2 weeks, Adaeze committed herself to complete, clinical fairness. No sabotage. No personal vendetta. Just pure professional evaluation. If Okonkwo's application was legitimate and met all requirements, she would approve it despite their history. But if it didn't, she would reject it based on facts alone. The ethical power she held was intoxicating, but she refused to abuse it. She had not survived this long, fought this hard, and built this career to become like him. She reviewed every single document he submitted. Financial statements. Worker contracts. Safety inspection reports. Business plans. Tax records. Bank statements. Project histories. The more she read, the clearer the picture became. Okonkwo had been sloppy, careless, arrogant. He had assumed his charm and chieftaincy title would carry him through inspections and regulations. But they hadn't. She found discrepancies everywhere. Workers' complaints buried in labor office records, unpaid wages, promised bonuses never delivered, safety equipment never provided. She found misreported income on tax filings. She discovered safety violations that had been documented by government inspectors but never addressed. None of this was hidden. It was all public record. Okonkwo had simply never expected anyone to look closely. Adaeze documented everything meticulously, creating a comprehensive evaluation report with evidence attached to every claim. Then she discovered something that made her blood run cold. Through her network of contacts in Enugu, she learned that Okonkwo and Chioma were already celebrating. They were telling everyone that Adaeze would save the family. They had already written the ending to this story in their minds. The invisible girl would do what invisible girls always do, quietly fix problems for the people who hurt them. Chioma even posted vague updates on Facebook: family always comes through when it matters. Blood is thicker than water. Friends commented, so blessed, and family is everything. They assumed Adaeze would play her assigned role because she always had. The obedient stepdaughter. The girl who absorbed pain silently. The one who asked for nothing and accepted less. But they didn't know who Adaeze had become. One evening, as she worked late at the office, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Adaeze. Okonkwo's voice, warm in a way she'd never heard before. My daughter, I hope you received my email. I know you'll do the right thing. Family is everything, you know. We take care of each other. Adaeze's grip tightened on the phone. He had never called her my daughter before. Never. Sir, I'm reviewing your application according to standard procedures, she said professionally. All applications are evaluated equally. Of course, he said smoothly. I just wanted to hear your voice. It's been so long. We should talk soon, catch up properly. After that phone call, Adaeze sat at her desk for a long time, staring at nothing. The manipulation was so clear now. He needed her, so suddenly she was my daughter. Suddenly family mattered. Suddenly her voice was worth hearing. She opened her evaluation report and continued documenting. Every unpaid worker became a note. Every safety violation became a red flag. Every misreported figure became evidence. She wasn't inventing problems. She was simply refusing to ignore them the way previous reviewers might have. By the time she finished, the conclusion was undeniable. Based on objective program criteria, Okonkwo Construction Limited did not qualify for the grant. Not because of bad luck or economic hardship, but because of documented incompetence, poor management, and ethical violations. But before submitting her report, something unexpected happened. Okonkwo showed up at the CDI office. It was a Thursday morning. Adaeze was in a conference room reviewing final notes when the receptionist called. There's a Chief Okonkwo here asking for you. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't seen him face to face in 7 years. She took a deep breath, smoothed her blouse, and walked to the lobby. He stood there in an ill-fitting suit, trying to look dignified but failing. His face had aged. His confidence looked forced. When he first saw her, he didn't recognize her immediately. Adaeze had transformed completely, poised, professional, powerful. Then recognition flickered in his eyes. His smile faltered. Adaeze, he said, recovering quickly, extending his hand. Look at you. All grown up. Working in a big office. She shook his hand briefly, professionally. Chief Okonkwo. What brings you here? He tried small talk, asking about her studies, her job, her life in Lagos. Each question felt like a performance, words without genuine interest. She answered with polite distance, giving nothing personal. Finally, he cleared his throat. I'm here about my assistance application. I'm sure you've seen it by now. I have. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Good. So we can talk frankly. We are family, after all. You'll look out for us, won't you? The word family hung between them like a weapon. Adaeze kept her voice calm and even. I evaluate all cases based on documented facts and program requirements, not family relationships. His smile disappeared. Are you serious right now? Completely. His voice rose slightly. After everything we gave you. A roof over your head. Food. Education. Everything you gave me. Adaeze repeated softly, her voice steady. Other people in the lobby were beginning to notice. We raised you. His voice grew louder. And this is how you repay us? Sir, Adaeze said firmly, I need you to lower your voice. This is a professional environment. Don't tell me what to do, you ungrateful. 2 security officers stepped forward immediately. Okonkwo looked around wildly, suddenly aware that people were staring. His face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. This isn't over, he hissed at Adaeze, his voice low and threatening. Then he turned and stormed out of the building. Adaeze stood there, completely composed on the outside, though her heart hammered in her chest. The receptionist approached, concerned. Are you okay, Miss Okonkwo? I'm fine, Adaeze said calmly. Thank you. That afternoon, her phone buzzed with a message from Chioma. The first direct communication in 7 years. If father loses everything, it's your fault. I hope you can live with yourself. Adaeze read the message twice, then blocked the number. She could live with herself just fine. 2 days later, someone knocked on her apartment door. When she looked through the peephole, she saw her mother standing there, looking smaller and older than Adaeze remembered. For several seconds, Adaeze considered not opening the door. But finally, she did. Nkem stood in the doorway, her eyes red from crying. Please. Can we talk? Adaeze stepped aside silently, letting her mother enter. She made tea while Nkem sat at the small kitchen table, crying softly. When Adaeze finally sat down across from her, Nkem began speaking. I need to tell you things I should have told you years ago. Over the next hour, Nkem confessed everything. She told Adaeze how Okonkwo had systematically poisoned Chioma against her from childhood. He told her you were trying to steal attention from her. He made her believe you were a burden I brought into the marriage. He turned her into his weapon against you. Adaeze sipped her tea silently, listening. But there's something worse, Nkem continued, her voice shaking. Something I discovered recently that made me finally find the courage to contact you. What is it? Nkem pulled out a folder from her bag. After your father died, he left land in your name. Good land in the village. Okonkwo knew about it. He forged documents. He made me sign papers I thought were marriage documents, but they were land transfer papers. He stole your inheritance and sold it to developers. That money built his entire business empire. Adaeze's face remained calm, though her mother couldn't see the storm inside. He didn't just reject you out of cruelty, Nkem whispered. He rejected you because you were smart, and he feared you'd discover what he'd done. He tried to break your spirit so you'd never question anything. There was a long silence. Then Adaeze spoke quietly. I know. Nkem's head snapped up. What? I've known for years. I found father's documents in the attic when I was 16. I've been investigating since then, waiting for the right moment. Nkem stared at her daughter in shock. You knew? All this time? Not at first. But eventually, yes. And now the universe has brought him to me. Over the next week, Adaeze finalized her evaluation report. It was thorough, factual, and devastating. She submitted it to the CDI board with all supporting evidence. The board reviewed her findings for 3 days, asking questions, verifying every claim. Finally, they approved her recommendation unanimously. Okonkwo's grant application was officially denied. But Adaeze didn't stop there. She filed a formal complaint with the State Anti-Corruption Bureau, attaching evidence of fraudulent contracts and the forged land documents. She also contacted a lawyer about the land theft. Within 2 weeks, Okonkwo's world began crumbling. Without the grant, he couldn't secure other funding. Contractors pulled out. Workers quit. The Anti-Corruption Bureau launched an investigation. Bills piled up. The house entered foreclosure. One evening, Okonkwo appeared at Adaeze's apartment, disheveled and desperate. When she opened the door, he was actually crying, real tears, not manipulation. "I'm losing everything, Adaeze. Please. I need your help." It was the first time he'd ever said please to her. She let him inside and listened as he tried every tactic: guilt, fake remorse, promises to change. When he finished, she asked one question: "Where was this family when I was 13 with my honor roll certificate?" Okonkwo's face went pale. He tried to justify, to explain, to make excuses. But Adaeze cut him off. "I can't ethically help you," she said calmly. "Your application failed legitimate requirements. There's no loophole I can create without committing fraud. But you could try. I could compromise my integrity to rescue someone who destroyed my childhood." She shook her head. "No." She handed him information on free financial counseling services. He took it like it was contaminated. "That's it. That's all you're offering. It's more than you ever offered me." He left, slamming her door. 2 weeks later, Adaeze called for a village tribunal. She presented everything to the Youth Council: the grant denial documentation, the corruption evidence, the worker testimonies, and finally, the land theft. She showed proof that Okonkwo built his empire on money stolen from a dead man's daughter. The council chamber was packed. Villagers gasped as the truth unfolded. Chioma sat in the back, watching her father's image shatter. The council chairman asked Okonkwo if he disputed any claims. He couldn't. "Adaeze Okafor," the chairman said, "what is your request?" "Restoration," she answered. "Return the remaining land to its rightful owner. Strip the chieftaincy title earned through fraud. That's all." The council agreed. Okonkwo's title was removed. The land was returned to Adaeze. 6 months later, Adaeze stood on her reclaimed land as construction began. She was building the Okafor Community Center for abandoned and displaced children who, like her, needed to know they weren't invisible. An old car drove slowly past the construction site. Inside sat Okonkwo, diminished and alone. Their eyes met briefly through the window. Adaeze felt nothing, no triumph, no hatred, no satisfaction. Just peace. She turned back to watch children playing on the grounds, their laughter filling the air. Her mother, Nkem, who had finally left Okonkwo and moved into a small apartment, stood beside her. "You did it," Nkem whispered. "You became everything he tried to prevent." Adaeze smiled softly. "No. I became everything my father hoped I'd be." As the sun set over the land that was always meant to be hers, Adaeze thought about the journey. About the 13-year-old girl with a crumpled certificate. About the 7 years of silence and survival. About the careful documentation and patient waiting. About justice that came not through destruction, but through truth. "If only I had known," she whispered, "that the man who said, 'You are not my daughter,' was actually right. I was never his daughter. I was always my father's. And that was always enough." The greatest revenge, she had learned, wasn't destruction. It was becoming so complete that your oppressor's absence left no mark at all. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. If so, please like the video, comment on what you have learned from the video, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel.